Hello everyone. So today what we're going to be going over is people that are having problems with your tattoo line work. So if you're having problems with your saturation, if everything's going in really light, not healing up correctly, three different things could be going wrong: your hand speed, your needle depth, and the voltage of your machine. So these three things could go into how your line work isn't coming out exactly how you would want it to. So if you're into content like this, the best thing you could do is like and follow down below so that you can keep up to date on all our new content. So let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is the needles that you are actually using. So right here I'm using Quadrant. If you're using some cheap cartridges, that can be an issue on why you are not having your lines come out correctly, because cheaper cartridges can have problems with your line work being shaky. The flow of the ink to the end of your cartridge could be a problem. So these are all things that go into effect as well. So to make sure you're using good cartridges so that it kind of narrows down what can be going wrong. From there, the next thing we're going to talk about is if you are riding on your tube or riding on the needle. So if my machine was turned on right now, you would be able to see that my needle would be hanging out of the actual tube. What that means is I'm going to be riding on the tip of the needle. I'm not going to be putting the skin on the actual tube because I'm going to blow out the actual ink underneath the skin, and I do not want blowouts in my tattoos. So whenever you feel comfortable enough to go on to riding off the tip of the needle, you have way more control and you can kind of feel the depth that you need to be. So I definitely recommend, as soon as you are comfortable, to go into tattooing on the tip of the needle instead of the tube. Okay, the next point we're going to talk about would be your hand speed. That would be how fast your hand is moving when you're tattooing. This does take a little bit of time to try to get comfortable with matching up your hand speed to your voltage. All of these things could take a little bit of time, so that's why I recommend practicing on fake skins, just so you can get a feel for everything and just be confident and comfortable when you are tattooing. Now we'll get on to the voltage, what you're running your machine on. So with the tattooing that I do, how I tattoo, I try to stick between a 9 and a 10.5. If I'm doing shading, I might go a little bit below that, but that's kind of the spectrum that I stay in. And the machine I'm using is my Inkjecta Flight Nano. This is my other one. I do have an Elite as well, but they are great machines and they work really well for the way that I tattoo. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is your needle depth. So if you are having problems with your tattooing line work, this is probably a big cause of a lot of problems out there. So some people will go too deep in the skin, which will cause blowouts, or some people will just lightly brush on the top of it, afraid of blowouts, and when it heals, the tattoo is just completely gone. So the best thing to try to go into this and explain would be me pulling out some fake skin and just showing you what the difference of everything would be, and showing you the angle that I use, the hand speed, the voltage that I use to create a good tattoo. All right, so let's get into that. Okay, so now that we have everything set up, I'm gonna go through a couple of things just to help set up your machine correctly for line work. And this is the design I printed off just to throw on here to show you how to create a good line work in your tattoo. So before we start, we're going to be checking the depth of our needle, and this will be, we're going to check it when the machine is running. So I'm gonna turn this on real quick. So this is what it looks like when it's running. And this is when the machine is off. You clearly see that the needle is not hanging out of the actual cartridge or the tube whenever the machine is off. That's one thing you want to make sure that you are doing. It's not having your needle hang out of your cartridge when the machine is off. Awesome, so now that we have our machine set up in a way to where I'm running off the tip of the needle, you know, I'm not putting the tube clear down into the skin completely, I'm just going to be running off the tip. So now we'll get into what it looks like whenever you are going too deep or too light. We'll start on this area over here, so I'll get that clearly in view for you. So we'll start out with just going too light over the skin and just showing you kind of what it's going to look like, just in case you are having these problems, you'll clearly be able to see and know exactly what you're doing wrong. Okay, you could tell that this is very light. You can see if you look closely all the little needles. You could kind of see the lines that they create in the actual line, which is caused from the actual needle not going deep enough in the skin to create a consistent line. So it's leaving spaces in between that you can clearly see. Next, we'll go to the next spot to where I'm going to slow down my hand speed a lot and go really slow, and you're going to see all the trauma it does to the fake skin. This is something you definitely want to stay away from if you are tattooing people, because you could really, really hurt them. Okay, now with this one you can clearly see that it actually cut into the fake skin. It sliced it because the needles were going into the skin so many times that it actually created so much trauma that it just cut straight through it like a razor blade. So these are the two spectrums that you could be looking at: it being too light or it just being too thick to where it actually cuts into it. Now a couple different things that could go into this would be needle depth. You could see that I definitely pushed the machine in further just to show you the trauma that I could do if you do things incorrectly. So you want to make sure you're going into the skin the same depth the whole way through your whole tattoo. So just get used to doing that. And then your hand speed, you'll be able to see when I get down to this rose that I'm going to be going the exact same with my hand speed the whole way through, just staying consistent. I know with my machine running on 10 right now, the exact hand speed I need to go to create clean line work and everything involved with that. Another thing I wanted to point out would be doing these line exercises will help you out a ton. Just getting used to going in a perfectly straight line, going over your lines. Doing these exercises can be great. So if you're first starting out and trying to practice all these things with your line depth, your hand speed, your voltage, trying to get that stuff figured out, this is a great way to do it, because you could clearly see if you're making changes to get better each time, because you could clearly see this one compared to this one, or this one compared to this one is completely different. So before we jump onto the rows, I'm going to show you my hand speed and everything, doing just one of these lines and showing you how I do it. Okay, as you can see that this one is a clean line and this one is not cut up. You can kind of press it out and it's not slicing open like this one, because I didn't go super deep in the skin. I was going the exact speed that I needed to. I wasn't going too slow, and it wasn't able to overwork that area. So that would be a clean line. That would be what you're focusing on getting to right there. So now that we went through explaining everything in detail, I'll just show you a couple quick lines on this rose, just because when you do straight lines all the time, it gets a little tricky going around curved areas, and I'll show you how I hold my machine for those to help you out. So before I start my machine, I just wanted to point out that I like to push my lines. I don't really like to pull them. What that means is I am pushing my needle into the skin the direction that I am going. Pulling my lines, sometimes I use thicker liners and it has a problem with being able to saturate it completely. So that's just how I like to tattoo. So I like to set up my hand before I start tattooing, knowing exactly which way I'm going to go. Another thing to think about would be, depending on the size of your needle, will affect the angle that you're using your machine. If I'm using a thick needle, I'll angle my machine at about an 80. I don't want to have it, super far down. I don't want to have it straight up. But depending on your needle size, you'll have to change that a little bit. Okay, as you can see, just practicing keeping consistent the whole way through. That's the biggest thing whenever you are practicing your line work, and one of the biggest problems when you are tattooing your line work will come from this. You want to make sure that you're just staying consistent. If you're going around a line and it comes to a circle port, you want to make sure that you're not pushing your needle super deep in that area, or if you get uncomfortable, feel free to just do this part of the line, then kind of whip it out at the end, and then you can just set back a little bit to finish that line. I'll go over that real quick just to try to help you out. So if you're starting to feel uncomfortable, what you're going to do, okay, as you could see, when I got to this part, I just whipped out that edge, just because if you're starting to feel uncomfortable, you could start to get shaky, and you don't want that. So just whip that part out, and then when I start back up, I'm going to start back a little bit on this line and then just finish it out. That way it'll keep a consistent line, and without having like a little bump right here or anything from just oversaturating in that area, trying to come back to it completely over top the same one. So this helps out a lot. Another thing you want to think about, if you are having issues with stuff like this, you know, make sure anytime you are not tattooing, that it's not in the skin you pick up, make sure you dip it in your actual ink so that there is enough held in the tube to actually be able to do that line. If you're having a problem having really nice saturated lines and it just comes to where it doesn't look as thick like the one we did up here, it could be an issue with just not having enough ink in your tube. So that's something to think about as well. When you are lining, another little tip that'll help you out is how you hold your machine. So I like to have my middle finger underneath the actual cartridge just for extra control underneath here, and I'll use my pinky as kind of my depth finder. So whenever I find the depth that I want to stick at, I will just kind of have my pinky and just get used to the muscle memory of that. So no matter what, you always have the right depth from just getting used to having your pinky down there, and just, you know, just learning this tattoo that way will help you in the future. one other thing I want to show you really quick before we wrap up this video will be if you do go over a line and it is a little light. So I'm going to show you right here. Okay, so right here, where I went over this line and it's super light, what you're going to want to do, you don't want to go over it super hard, you know, getting in there just because it was super light the first time, so you don't want to just go in there and overwork the skin super bad. What you're going to do is go in there and just go the right depth, just go a little bit slower, because whenever you are starting out, the biggest problem I had was where I would just get excited when I was tattooing, and then I would just completely forget my hand speed the whole way through the tattoo, and I would just eventually get to the point that I'm just trying to tattoo really fast. So it takes a long time to get used to just going the exact speed you want to go, and then just sticking with that efficiently. So if you do get to a point to where you notice yourself speeding up in one area and it turned out super light, what you're going to do is just go back over that area. The biggest and hardest thing with that is going over the line exactly. So just get used to practicing that if you are first starting out. If you already are tattooing and you're comfortable with this, you don't have to worry about this stuff. Just like that. So now that we went into detail about all of the line work secrets and how to get better, hopefully this helped you out a lot and you were able to understand exactly how line work works and how it goes into the skin and what could better your line work when it comes to tattooing. Awesome. I hope this video was able to help you get better and help anyone that was having problems with their line work, tattooing and all that stuff. The best thing you could do if this helped you out would leave a like down below and follow for more content.